Good evening. Uh, It is Monday, March 16th, 2026, at 7 p.m. Meeting number 5336. Will the clerk please call roll? Here.
Here. Here. Here.
I see no one here for invocation. So if you all rise, we'll have say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. At this time, I would seek a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. We have no petition and proclamations. At this time, we'll do the visitors section. There's a limit of 5 minutes per individual, 15 minutes per topic. Final action may be deferred until the next city commission meeting unless an emergency situation does exist. Are there any visitors that would like to speak tonight?
I would. How you guys doing? Appreciate you, commissioners. Moore Smith, seen me once or twice before.
Yes, sir.
I have just 3 documents that I'd like each one of you to see.
Thank you, sir.
I was the general manager of the Dodge House Hotel for 2.5 years. Started in May of 2023, ending in December of 2025. During that time, when I first started, I'm giving you this, and what you're seeing as far as the document, I want you to know the hotel that you have in your city. And the hotels that you have in your city represent your city. And so I need you to understand that I'm giving you heads up on the condition and the type of person that runs that hotel, which is why the condition of the hotel is the way it is. So when I first started, I had to go ahead and route out the prostitution and the drugs that were in that hotel. Took me about it took me about 4 months to take care of that before they realized that that's not going to go on anymore in this hotel. And then there was plenty of people who thought that we could just trash the hotel, and I had to get rid of that type of mentality. But that's not the type of mentality that the owner of that hotel wants. The owner only cares about a peso or a penny. You don't care about making an honest buck. And so for 2.5 years out of my pocket, I have been paying to get the upkeep of that hotel to a standard that is respectable. And so what you've got going around is out of my pocket. I had to go to the district court to file a small claims against him in the hopes that he would go ahead and be honest enough to go ahead and pay for, all the expenses that went to the upkeep and daily maintenance of that hotel. That hotel is a danger. It's got electrical wiring in almost every room, that the doors are locked so that you can't get in from the back side. I don't know how long you've been in Dodge City, so you'll understand that it used to be an outside exterior entry into an interior entry. So they closed out the outside, and they've got wires hanging out, but the doors are locked and shut. Now, we had a fire there that took care of some of the need of that hotel, but it did not, the city inspectors did not stay with it to force this owner to do the needs necessary with money to apply to make this hotel one of the best hotels there. When I got in there, I had to cut that grass. It was almost up to my knees, mosquitoes, etc. you know, and I kept that. When we had Dodge City Days, which I participated in twice, people were sitting along the sidewalk, which they wouldn't have been able to do before, and appreciating that parade that came up and down the street. I just want you, as I was, to be proud of that hotel. Know that it's a diamond in the rough, a gold mine that can be utilized and bring tourists and money in. But as long as you have an owner that only thinks about making a penny and not going to do anything unless they're forced to bring that hotel up, eventually the city is going to be heard about it around the state and around the nation, because this is historical, this Dodge City is. And we don't want any negative coming out of it just for one hotel. So this is your heads up that you got to stay with it. You got to stay with, bring those city inspectors there and making this owner bring that hotel up to being respectable, both in the minds of people who come in as tourists, both in the minds of them and those that really care about Dodge City, Kansas. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you. Is there anybody else? Seeing none, we will close the visitor section. At this time, we'll seek a motion for the consent calendar, or if any commissioners would like to pull anything.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. At this time, we'll move into ordinances and resolutions. Tonight, we have resolution number 2026-04, 2026-05, 2026-06, 26-07. They are utility fees for water, sanitary sewer, solid waste, and stormwater. Report by Nicole May, Finance Director.
Mayor, Commissioners, tonight I am asking for approval of resolutions number 2026-04, 2026-05, 2026-06, and 2026-07. These all set fees for utilities within the city of Dodge City. It is an annual review of utility rates, and this is part of the normal annual review of those. We normally adjust the rates for each utility by the amount of the consumer price index for all urban consumers, and the 5-year average for this for the year 2025 was 4.33%. 4.68%, sorry. And then also the water and sewer resolutions do include a section that allows the city to charge 1 1/2 the rate for services outside the city limits. The increase in these fees, the increases also pertain to the industrial fees, which include negotiated rates for National Beef, NORAM, Mid-America Washout, and Hillmar. And I provided you this evening a comparison of the 2025 utility rates to the 2026 utility rates. For the water, it would be an increase of 50 cents per month in the base fee and 13 cents per month per 1,000 gallon of water. For sewer, it would be $1 per month increase in the base fee, and for solid waste, it would be $1.04 per month in the charge for 1 pickup of their trash. On the average, if a resident used 3,200 gallons of water, this would be an increase of $3.99 per month. If they used an average of 6,000 gallons per water, it would be an increase of $4.46 per month. I've also provided you with kind of where we fall with Garden City and Liberal, and we're kind of right in the middle between those two. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Anybody have any questions for Nicole? On these, I guess, where are we? I know in the past we've talked conservation rate. I guess, how many users do we still have that, I guess, are above and beyond, or, I mean, where's that conversation been going?
We really haven't talked much about the conservation rate since last year. I know that we looked at it. One of the things that we need to discuss and needs to be determined by the commission of where do we want those conservation rates to kick in and for what percentage. I know we talked about after 150% of their winter quarter average, it may kick in like a first tier conservation rate, and then once they hit like a 300% usage, then it kicks in like a second tier type rate for those individuals. But outside of that, we have not had any discussion, and we haven't looked at it for several months.
Yeah, I would have to pull new data to see how many residents that could affect and what their average usage was.
I highly doubt it's changed any as far as use patterns. May have actually got worse. Well, may have got better just because it's a wet year. But I anticipate once we have a dry year, we'll be right back to where we were. And that will be a concern for this summer because our average daily use can be 8 million gallons, but in the summer it can go 12 million plus, which a large portion of that's growth is for that use is in the north zone, which is just watering grass and not necessarily making it to the sewer system. And so that's is a major concern just because we just don't have enough capacity up north to keep meeting those demands.
Is there any municipalities rewarding, I guess, alternatives like xeriscapes or?
Rewarding? No, I wouldn't say necessarily rewarding. There's programs out there. Hayes has a program that they would give you. I believe they give you a little bit of a credit if you were to put xeriscape in. They also do it for high efficiency washers and dishwashers. But their rates, the way they're set up, they're really aggressive on the conservation rate. So in the summer, I mean, it's not uncommon for some folks to have $300-400 water bills and just barely use a little bit over what their average is. So it definitely increases substantially. I believe Garden City even has a water conservation rate that does kick in, but I don't remember exactly at what level. Corey, do you remember offhand on that one?
A few years ago, we looked at that too, so.
Would it be, in your guys' opinion, any more productive to kind of incentivize alternative landscaping rather than increasing rates for use, higher use?
I mean, we can probably look at maybe for new yards, maybe subsidizing them for new yards, maybe subsidizing the cost a little bit, but water use is water use at the end of the day too, so we have to keep that in consideration. I mean, if they want to have a fescue lawn and green, or even if they want buffalo or Bermuda and want green, there's still going to be abusers that use substantially more water than what they need to keep it looking green. Education is a key part of it as well, but honestly, the only tool that gets people to really get serious about water conservation is charging them for more water, hitting them in the pocketbook. I hate saying that, but that's been shown to be the only effective method of true water conservation in a community.
And so the result of that is crappy looking yards or what?
Yeah, you have to go
Guess
with
that's my
xeriscape,
question.
warm season grasses. You have to just change the way that you think about things. I mean, we only allow warm planting in all of our city projects now is all warm season grasses. So it's a Bermuda or buffalo is all that we plant. We won't plant any cool season grasses.
I think
anymore.
it'd be something to look into if there is any municipalities, I wouldn't say rewarding, but incentivizing alternative. And what's the results rather than,
Most of from what I've seen is just like what Nick said, but there's also the moisture detection that can be placed on to the sprinkler systems so that you know what type of moisture you have in your soils.
And I know Salina went to it back in 2007. I was just sat in on a conference where they were talking about their water conservation. And they had, for 5 or 6 years, they had just basically education and a process where they would help people, be more efficient. But they never saw any true reduction until they started actually finding people. And it got so bad there, they wouldn't allow you to even have your sprinklers go into the streets. They would actually write you a ticket for that, and they had people reporting those all over town. So basically the water police, which were private citizens going around and making complaints against other people, but their water usage is actually on a daily summer average is significantly less than what our average use is in the summer for water.
So do we know what the average water bill is for citizens here in Dodge?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what it was.
So, on the bottom of the rate, sheet, the bottom here, those are the average bills for those
Amounts of water.
usages. But as far as like a total average, I could figure it out. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Corey, what's about our average water use?
So I have, those are the ones, I just figured out different.
I do have all of that. When I worked on it, I have it all in an Excel spreadsheet that I did a few years ago. But most of the users that were there were just several that were just very high. So, but it's like 6,800 is an average that sticks to my head. 6,800 gallons a month. So. As an average, but there are users that are way above that.
I think we just call that Tuesday at our house. With grass and flowers and what have you.
yeah, I understand.
Jeff and I can't water if you guys make these bills too high.
Well, I just say on commercial properties too, like if there's any way you can get them to xeriscape or no plants, but still do something that's decorative or, artificial turf like you're starting to see at some places. I think that's the way to go when they come in and propose a plan to me.
And we're trying to show with some of our plantings downtown how they can utilize a method of kind of xeriscaping with a lower water use and still make it look good.
I think the only thing that I think we've ever done, Corey, to make the people use more water is to restrict their water usage. I mean, it's gonna kick in if we tell people, man, you're a Monday, Wednesday, Friday person. We're gonna use so much water out of our system. It's just not even. It's really interesting why that works like that. It does.
Yeah, and you have to police it. I will say one thing that the city of Wichita is currently doing is they have designated days for certain addresses. These are the days you can water. No watering on Mondays, and they've they've started policing that very,
Yeah.
very strictly, but to do something like that, it's definitely gonna have to be policed and to ensure that, you know, people are sticking to the schedule.
Yeah, because some people will water even if they weren't gonna water. If that's their day, you know, they'll turn the sprinklers on regardless, so.
But versus an everyday occurrence where we know that's happening
Anyway.
now, yeah, so, it could be a benefit.
So the average, if their water usage was 6,800 gallons, their bill would be just right at $101.15. Not exact, but I think that should be pretty close.
Are there any other questions or comments? Any action?
Gonna make a motion that we approve the rates for 2026-04, 2026-05, 2026-06, and 2026-07 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Nicole. We have no unfinished business. New business, approval of change order number 2 for the levee improvements. Project with MJ LLC, report by Ray Slattery, Director of Engineering.
Mayor and Commissioners, tonight I'm asking you to approve change order number 2 with MJE to regrade, stabilize, and place a riprap at the 3rd Avenue outfall to the river as part of the levee improvement in the amount of $117,800. Back in April of '24, the city approved the contract with MJE to complete the levee improvements by repairing erosion and armoring the drainage outfalls. MJE completed the project in late '24, early '25. However, the articulated concrete blocks, or the ACBs, which were placed at the outfall of the 3rd Avenue drain, did not dissipate enough energy to prevent erosion from happening at that outfall. Staff worked with our consultant, which is Wilson and Company and MJE, on a repair method for this erosion at the end of the outfall. The plan is to fill and regrade the eroded area with the material that was washed downstream, and then place a toe wall made of riprap and flowable fill at the end of the ABCs to prevent any undermining. And then on top of that, we would install 350 tons of large riprap in a size between 12 and 18 inches. There will be some smaller sizes, but that'll be the majority of the size of the riprap. 18 inches thick, 55 feet wide, and 60 inches long to create a spillway from the end of the ABC outfall of the 3rd Avenue outfall to the main river channel. The riprap should slow down and dissipate enough energy to prevent and protect the outfall from future erosion. This work is associated with our accreditation of the levee system, and there are funds from the 2023 general obligation bond for this project available for this change order. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ray?
So
The other levee improvements are working fine? The other drains?
The others, there's some minor erosion issues, but we're gonna take care of those. Nothing as big as 3rd Avenue, so.
Because you're using the bond, is that why you're calling it a change order with the
Correct.
project?
We haven't finalized the project because of this issue.
Was it engineered by an engineering firm, or
I
was
believe-
this just something that came up with MJE decided to do?
We've kind of worked in partnership between the city, Wilson and Company, and MJE to come up with this.
Yeah, the
repair method.
original one, though.
The original method was with Wilson and Company.
So they designed it the first time.
Everything else is held. This one just
Just too much water.
extremely large amount of water that comes down 3rd Avenue, and also part of the Seventh Avenue drains into it, and so.
Any other questions for Ray?
Your Honor, I make a motion we approve change order number 2 from MJE LLC to regrade, stabilize, and place riprap at Third Avenue outfall to the river as part of the levee improvements in the amount of $117,800.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Next up, we have approval of a plat for Garcia Gardens Edition. Report by Nathan Littrell, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight I ask for your consideration of Garcia Gardens Addition replat. This proposed plat would create 12 residential lots and 4 commercial lots. The residential lots would front Brightside Avenue and the commercial lots would front Second Avenue. The proposed lots meet the city zoning and development regulations and standards. This plat does consist of utility easements as well as a private shared access easements for the commercial lots off of Second Avenue. The Planning Commission met on March 10th, 2026, reviewed and voted 5-0 to recommend approval of this plat. And it is also city's staff's recommendation to approve this plat. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
So this is south of Supreme Feeders or feed mixer place?
I believe so. It's south of McCarter, a little ways. It's been an empty lot for quite some time. It's immediately east of the photo edition. Most of it is, there's an aerial that gives you a little bit of an idea.
The lot sizes are similar to Brightside Avenue?
They're pretty close to this similar size, a little bit deeper lots, but similar width.
Width? And those will be R1? Or we don't know yet?
We have not determined that yet. They basically designed this to be R2 with the
Oh, okay.
R2 to meet R2 standards. So they're a little bit narrower than we typically see in R1.
So Nathan, you're saying on the west side, he wants to make that residential, is that right?
Correct.
So have we taken a look at, streets? Cause there's only one way out, ain't there? Sunnyside, I guess Sunnyside and Brightside Avenue. So have we ever looked at extending like Kenneth Street over or no?
There's been some look at it. Not sure if it's needed for the amount of traffic that would be increased by these lots for the amount of cost to put that street in. It's definitely a possibility. We still have the street right away there if we have the need for it.
What is that? Is that just a dirt road,
Kenneth?
Kenneth?
Yeah, Kenneth west of Second Avenue is currently just basically a dirt road.
Are they selling these off individually, or are they doing this as a development themselves?
He's wanting to basically sell, he wants to have a couple to develop himself and then sell off the rest.
Any other questions or concerns?
Your Honor, I'd move to approve plat for Garcia Garden Edition.
What's
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Next up, we have approval of plat for Holiday Edition. Report by Nathan Littrell, Planning and Zoning Administrator.
The Holiday Edition of plat is property that's currently developed. It consists of a motel and restaurant on this property. The proposed plat would create 2 commercial lots, one lot for the motel that kind of creates a upside down U shape, and then one for just the restaurant. Replatting this will make it selling this portion of this property simpler and cleaner process. The proposed lots do meet the city zoning and development regulation standards. Along with the 2 lots, it does establish a mutual access easement kind of for parking and access of those 2 separate businesses. The Planning Commission met on March 10th, 2026, reviewed and voted 6-0 to recommend approval of this plat. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions for Nathan on this plat? I would just say, I guess if they sell this, one part or the other, they'll disclose parking in there, so we're not creating an issue with that or
Yeah.
having any problems between tenants, I guess.
Yeah, we looked at with both the property owner and surveyor on the parking issues there. It's limited parking, it doesn't necessarily change, but that mutual access will still basically allow it to continue to operate as it has.
Is there any action on the item?
Your Honor, I move to approve the plat.
Holiday edition.
Yeah, sorry, for it, can't find it. Yeah, for the holiday edition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Up next is approval of change order number 3 to fill void and complete additional compaction of grouting due to the anaerobic core failure. Report by Ray Slattery, Director of Civil Engineering.
Mayor and Commissioners, tonight I'm asking approval of change order number 3 from GSI for additional hours for a winch operator to assist in the grouting procedure in the amount of $48,720. When placing grout on the side slope walls of the anaerobic and aerobic cells, the grouting equipment must be stabilized by a winch connected to the dozer, to a dozer setting up on the level ground above, which was rented by UCI through a rental contract. UCI, though, however, due to their insurance, could not provide an operator. GSI had the ability to provide an operator for this equipment. However, the initial number of days estimated are not enough and need to be increased by 40 days, work days. GSI is estimating the number of days to complete the grouting on the slope walls. The number of days may be reduced once work begins in the aerobic lagoon, since not as much grouting is anticipated to take place at that location. GSI has completed the grouting outside of the anaerobic lagoon, and is now working inside on the paved portion of the lagoon, and also started some compaction grout curtains in the floor of that lagoon. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
So you're asking not to exceed this amount?
Correct.
Could be less.
Are there any other questions for Ray?
Still have funding available?
Yes.
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve the amount for not to exceed $48,720 to GSI.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Last up, we have approval of proposal from PGAV Planners for the feasibility study for the Star Bond Heritage Area Expansion. Report by Nicole May, Finance Director.
I'll actually take that, Mr. Mayor. This is for a contract with PGAV, which is a consulting firm that will look at the feasibility of the ability of the bonds and what the sales tax will potentially produce within that district and the expanded area within the Star Bond area. This is a third-party evaluation. The state of Kansas will have their own that they have to do. This one actually is more geared towards Stiefel and our bond underwriters, and it has to be done separately from the states as kind of a check and balance between the two. So this is really for the underwriters and for the bond portion of it. The state's portion is basically kind of their protection as well, just to make sure that the numbers that they see, there is some correlation and the assumptions are basically the same and kind of get an idea of where they're at. But this is a process that we have to approve and have move forward. They actually, we sent them all the information last week. They provided this. Their goal is to actually have to us a rough draft within a couple weeks after approval. So the first part of April, and our goal ultimately is to issue bonds by the first part of June for the Heritage Bond District. We're just waiting on the state of Kansas to get their portion done, and then it'll be a long list of this approval and the project plan being presented, the district being expanded, and then all the bond processes that will go with it as well. So this is kind of that first step on our end to just try to keep the bond process moving, so there isn't a waiting period between the state's evaluation and the city's evaluation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Nick? No, is there any action on this item?
Your Honor, I move to approve proposal for PGAV planners for a feasibility study for Star Bonds in the Heritage area expansion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
It's in the amount of $37,500, and I'll second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second for an amount of $37,500. All in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right, moving on. We have no other business. Staff reports.
I'll actually let Corey start, give you guys an update of the nitrate issue.
Mayor, Commissioners, wanted to give you an update on the status of the nitrate press release that we had to send out today. So we originally took the sample on February 23rd. That's when the original sample took place. We received the result on March 9th, and so the result on March 9th is the result of the press release that had to go out today. The press release is a requirement from KDH&E. The wells that were sampled, which are the wells that are 10 miles south of town, there's 7 wells out there that produce water. During the sample, you have to turn all those wells on. You take your sample, you send that off to KDH&E. So at the time of the sample, the wells were not running, at all the time. So they were running just during the sample and not in the demand of the system. So we only had 2 wells at the time out there running, which we've now tested all of the wells because KDH&E only requires us to sample at the chlorine building. We decided to go ahead and take samples at all 7 wells so we could figure out exactly where the issue is. So we've done that. We received the results for every one except for 1. We did have 2 wells out there that have a level of 12.3 is what I was thinking, parts per million. So those 2 wells have been isolated. They're turned off currently and will not be producing water until we can figure out more about what's going on. We did some other sampling at the chlorine building. We've also sampled downstream on 14th and on Highway 56 just to see what our nitrate levels are in those locations to kind of determine if our math is correct on what our nitrate level should be as those wells blend into the system. So those wells have at least 4 wells that are in direct influence of where they enter into the system. There was only 1 service that is inside of before they connect into the system, which is the racetrack. On the other side of 14th, then you would have the first service that comes up is the National Guard Armory there. So we've done some testing just to check to see where it was. Based on our figures of where the nitrate levels were on the wells influencing within the city limits, and the 11 that we got the day of the sample, we're calculating that our part per million would be around 7 in that area. So we don't really feel like there was an issue based on the blending that would occur right in that space. However, as a precautionary notice, we do have to send out the letter or the press release notifying the public of what occurred. That's our obligation to the state, to the EPA and the citizens. So that's what we did today. We're continuing to monitor the situation as far as how we can address that. When I do the resample, I most likely won't turn on those 2 wells. So I anticipate that unless KDH&E says I have to, I most likely will not. And then that way we know that our nitrate level at the chlorine building will be much lower. So I did samples today at Servitech at the location just to kind of check and see. I have not received the sample bottle from KDH&E for the official sample yet, but I've kind of done some preliminary checking and to ensure that, you know, what we're putting into the system is safe for everybody. And based on all of our calculations at this time, I do not believe that people have anything to worry about or had anything to worry about, but we did have to send this information out just for precautionary notice. So I'll be happy to answer any questions with that. Once we receive the results, we will publish those and put those out to the public for that. I have contacted several people, including National Beef. We had several individuals call us today. Some requested water, and we provided them with water and explained the situation to them. However, it seemed to ease their mind a little bit to provide them water, and so that's what we did. I have contacted National Beef. I've let them know in kind of worst case scenario, because of the 2 wells and the nitrate levels that were higher at those. I believe that we can rotate wells so that we're always blending it with a well with a lower amount, which will bring that amount down, but we want to monitor that and make sure that that's the case. So that's kind of what we're doing now.
So a couple questions, Corey. KDHE has a limit of 10, and we had a hit of 11 at the well that you...
Yes, yeah.
So the wells hadn't been running for how long?
They had been off. The demand for, you know, out there isn't as high as it is in the summer months. And so some of the allocations out there aren't as large as some of the wells that we have on the in town. So typically we wait until demand picks up, and then we'll start turning those wells on.
So do you think because them wells haven't been pumped for a while is why it was high in nitrates?
You know, there's several possibilities, and that could be one. Those are things that we need to check, and I want to be able to check those in a way that we're not pumping that water into the system now that we know that is, and we can do that out there. We can run them, just open up valves and put water out on the ground. So. But we haven't had this issue prior. The last nitrate sample that we took was 9.5, which is a little elevated, but it was still lower than the 10. And then as it blends into the system, I believe it's going to get much lower. So.
How long ago was that?
I believe it's a year ago. So yeah, all the nitrates are, once a year, so.
What's your well depth out there?
I believe most of them are over 200 feet, yeah.
So, but you haven't had any positive, because you do samples in town too. for-
Yeah, and typically when this occurs, I mean, nitrate samples are, an annually, unless we have an issue like this. And then I'm sure KDH&E will require them more often, like well 3, in 2003, we had a nitrate hit on that. We did some well rehab on that, and when we tested the well after the rehab, it was much lower. And so we didn't put that well back into the system until early last year. And so, you know, we monitor it, make sure that it's safe before we pump it. And as soon as we know anything is an issue, we turn the wells off, so.
Do you know what your static water level is out there?
Not off the top of my head, but most of the wells out there, we haven't seen a decrease in the water level. They've stayed right at where they are from year to year, so. But I don't know off the top of my head. I do know that they've been flat for several years.
Do they make you test that too, annually?
Yes, yeah.
Curious if it came up at all.
Yeah, it does. We have to submit those numbers with our water use report.
Are we looking at a possibility of rehabbing these then, or is that too early to determine?
It is, and there's still some blending that it can occur. They're like well 24 was at a 3, which is very low. I haven't got a sample on well 22 yet, so I don't know where it was at. I was really surprised with well 23 and 26. Those were the two that hit 12, but everything else was under. So based on calculations, we can figure out how we can turn those wells on to check and see. And when we do plan to test that, we'll test it opening the water up to the ground, pump it for a little while longer to see if we can get you know, I don't like to do that because obviously you're just, you know, wasting water at that point, but in this instance, we'll do that and then recheck it, see where we're at, and then do some more checks at the chlorine building once we put the wells back into the system. So there could be a possibility that a rehab's needed. Yeah, I just don't know yet.
Anything else?
For the update, yeah, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing.
I have nothing.
Melissa? Ronnie? All right, well.
Your Honor, I move that the City Commission recess into executive session pursuant to the exception found in KSA 75-4319B2. The justification for closing the meeting is to consult with an attorney on matters deemed privileged to the attorney-client relationship. The open meeting will resume in the City Commission chamber in an hour at 8:48 p.m. The meeting will include all present commissioners, City Attorney Paige Gilmore, Director of Engineering Ray Slattery, City Engineer. And City Manager Nick Hernandez. The commission may take action upon returning to open session and prior to adjournment.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Raise your right hand. All right. City Commission is now in executive session.